Hello, everybody. I'm John. This is Strategic Investing, and today we are talking about Xtract One Technologies. Their recent earnings report, obviously not a great earnings. There were some bright spots on the call and some optimism, and we'll kind of go over that. But I just kind of want to run through the numbers here, talk about what I saw on the call, maybe play some clips for you, and then give my general thoughts on what I'm thinking about these earnings, what this means for next quarter specifically, and the full end of the fiscal year there, the second half as well. So first of all, as I said, as far as this quarter, the business that we booked and whatnot, that's really the main negative. And, just so you can see from the numbers here, I have kind of the last 5 quarters in front of me. Backlog basically flat. The main things here, bookings was down. Where do I have bookings here? Bookings total was down from last quarter of 5.6 million down to 4.2 million. And that's actually the second consecutive quarter that we've seen bookings drop. So from 9.5 million in Q3 of last year, 5.6 million in Q4, and now down to 4.2 million. And revenue also did decline from last quarter, from 5.6 million down to 3.6 million as well. So lower bookings, obviously meaning lower revenue. And also we did see a decline in signed agreements pending as well, which I was kind of hoping that we might see some of the one gateway orders, seeing as those from what they're saying are supposed to maybe start deployments in January, February, March timeframe. I was hoping maybe we'd see some of those orders that were already kind of placed, those pre-orders, signed agreements, just pending that finalization and installation in maybe January or February. But looks like we didn't really get that, or at least we're not getting a ton of those. I was maybe expecting a little bit more of a bump there, maybe being a little optimistic. But overall for the quarter, not great as far as the business booked in the quarter, and as far as at least from what we can see for the coming quarters on the signed agreements pending. Now, the explanation on the call for what we saw in the quarter here was a couple of things. One, there were, it seems like, at least 3 or 4 customers that, for whatever reason, delayed their finalization of the contract or installation of the gateways until maybe Q2 or Q3, whether it be, I think one was they were renegotiating some contracts, one, needed to finalize some budgeting, something like that. There were a couple of, what seems like, from what Peter's saying, little speed bumps. Those contracts are still going to fall through, but they just got delayed, causing this quarter's bookings and revenue to be a little lower. Now, that is a risk that we still have here with Xtract One. Obviously, they're a very small company still. If we have a, more mature company that's booking 50 or 100 customers per quarter, 3, 4, 5 of their customers who, something came up, we got to push it back, that's not really a big issue. That's, 4 or 5% of their overall, business that they're going to book. Xtract One is still very small. So 2 or 3 customers that decide to delay by a few months is a big deal for, Xtract One. That could be, 50% of their revenue or bookings that they were expecting for that quarter just from a few customers, since, we're really only booking maybe single or low double-digit customers per quarter at this point. So that is something that we still have to think about, and it's something that's going to, affect the stock and, bookings quarter to quarter here. So something to keep in mind, obviously something that affected this quarter. I want to play a couple of other points from the call that I thought were a little more bullish, should give us some confidence, and we'll just kind of talk about that. So the first clip I want to play, I believe, is around 6 minutes and 35 seconds into the call. This is Peter's comments around some of the pipeline and backlog that we're seeing right now.
Our qualified pipeline of opportunities remains at record levels. We're looking at approximately $80 million Canadian spread across our 4 key segments, with about 60% of those deals up front and about 40% subscription deals. These are highly qualified opportunities, as we've talked about and defined before, places that we're engaged with proposals, contractual red lines, demonstrations, or other such activities. Of these, I'd say approximately 52 million Canadian are in the late stages of engagement, strengthening our outlook for fiscal 2025.
So the main thing I'm kind of zeroing in on here is when he talks about of the 80 million, the 52 million that are in the late stages of engagement, strengthening their outlook for fiscal 2025. Basically saying, hey, this 52 million worth of that total pipeline, we're in late enough in the stages of those negotiations that we're fairly confident a lot of those or most of those will close in fiscal 2025. Obviously, we've had talk. Anyone that's been in this stock for more than 6 months, 9 months knows, there's always been talk of future potential, right? Opportunities that's coming up. That's really the main reason most of us have invested in the stock because, again, they're a very new company, right? We're investing for this potential of, 50 million in contracts, 100 million, et cetera, right? So, yeah, I know talk is cheap, but just something I wanted to highlight on the call there. It's something that I missed on the first time around. So it is nice to see, being very specific with that number there, 52 million of the total 80 million. Also talking about 60% of the deals being upfront versus 40% subscription. So a large bulk of that money, if they are able to close those deals, will just be upfront revenue, which will be very nice for revenue and for the cash position of the company going forward. The next portion that I want to play, there's 2 more clips. The last one I think is really important. It's actually one of Karen's comments, but really quickly, one more of Peter's comments. I think this is around 7 minutes and 20 seconds or so into the call. It's just a little bit later.
Let me also add a very important point, that the nature of our deals is changing now that we've established ourselves as an innovative security systems leader in the marketplace. We're seeing much larger organizations, typical Fortune 100 type organizations, for larger organizations, larger locations, and multiple sites. As the market progresses, the customer base is moving from the early adopters to the early mass marketplace, and the selling cycles and strategies for these accounts are different. In some cases, typically longer due to the added complexity and incremental amount of due diligence needed by these global or national organizations.
So again, I know this is another area where, it's talk about future potential, but I think it is something that we do have to take into account here with some of the deals, like he's saying, if we are seeing larger organizations with basically larger locations, more complex contracts and, specifications they have to deal with, these might take a little bit longer. And obviously that's not necessarily something we want to see as investors right now. It's not necessarily something that Xtract One wants to see, seeing, as they have had for a while now, a limited cash position. Time has never really been on their side in, the last couple of years or so, right? In the last 3 or 4 years. But, this is something that I did want to highlight because, one, it's a little bit of an explanation for maybe why some of these contracts are taking longer. And 2, it does give some optimism, potentially that backlog there that we're seeing, or that pipeline, I should say, some of those could be very large chunks of contracts if we're seeing this, Fortune 100 type of organization. So just something I wanted to highlight. This next one, though, with Karen's comments on the call, this one, honestly, I think is probably the most important point of the call here. And it's where she's talking about some of the customers renewing. And so let me just play this. I think it's from about 13 minutes into the call, and then I'll talk about it really quick.
We're also continuing to work with customers who are up for renewal following their initial contract terms and are pleased to see no churn thus far. This speaks volumes as to the commitment of our customers to protect their visitors and staff, and we're proud of the fact that our customers have chosen to stay with Xtract One as their preferred security provider.
So this, I think, is very, very bullish for Xtract One and should give investors a lot of confidence, because what she's saying is they're kind of getting to the point where the contracts that they first started to sign when they first started selling and whatnot are coming up for renewal. A lot of those are, ending, and the customers are renegotiating, or they're thinking about, do they want to continue? And she's saying they are seeing zero churn so far. That is something that really speaks volumes as far as just the product itself, but also as far as the customer service that Xtract One is offering to these customers. Obviously, these customers are extremely happy with what they are getting, because we are seeing zero of them cancel. And Peter did talk about, they didn't talk about it really on this call, but they talked about on the last call, a large portion of their bookings, I think in either the last call or the call before that, was expansions or additions from existing customers. So that, to me, honestly, when we're looking at a young company with a product that, we're still looking for real validation. Obviously, all of us have been following it. We have TSA, we have, NCS4, we have DHS, right? We know the product works, right? We know what it does, what it says it does, what they say it does, right? But what I think this is really starting to show, and what we're probably going to see more of, especially over the next, maybe 2-3 quarters, is the market validating that product at a high level, at a high volume, right? Because we have, obviously the third parties. We have Xtract One, doing their testing and whatnot. It does what they say it does. Does it solve the problem that the customers have? And I think a lot of us already kind of have a sense, based on what we've seen from Xtract One, that it does. But this zero churn here, and going forward, hopefully that continuing, and what we're going to see potentially from Xtract One Gateway, that I think is really going to start to show the full spectrum of how good this product and how good the service of this company is. So again, I think this is really one of the most important, if not the most important portion of the call here, seeing the customers that happy with the service and the product that they're getting. So overall, when I look at these earnings as a whole, obviously these earnings specifically, these numbers that we got, were not good, right? We had lower bookings, we had lower revenue, lower signed agreements. Well, not lower, but signed agreements pending as a whole did decline. So not good there. Does that mean that, we should just kind of throw everything away, start doubting whether the product works? I don't think so. One, based on these churn numbers, obviously the customers are happy with the product. Otherwise, we'd see customers canceling. We'd see, at least some churn in the product probably up until this point. And so I think at least myself, from my experience with the company, with the stock, from the interactions that I've had over the last couple of years with Peter and Karen, I still have extreme confidence that this company is going to be able to execute, and that this product is really a product that could be a game changer. So, what we're looking at as far as maybe next quarter, I don't know. Maybe I'll try to get Peter on, or maybe we'll get, some extra color in some webinars and whatnot before the next quarter, so that we don't get kind of another surprise there, because they weren't really clear about Q2. They're pretty clear that Q3, Q4, the back half of the fiscal year, they expect to see a lot of business, especially with One Gateway coming online. But Q2 might be a little bit of a wild card here, and maybe it would be nice to get some information just so we're not surprised, because I think that's really, at least for me, and I think a lot of investors, the main thing that kind of stung in this last quarter here was not necessarily the numbers themselves. We can deal with 1 quarter of lower bookings, especially if there's an explanation for it. But the fact that there was no warning really from, the last call and things like that of, hey, we might see a lower quarter, we might see some lower bookings, but, we're going to kind of make that up. We got some customers delaying, just some sort of heads up or something like that. So that would be nice to maybe get, maybe in an interview, if I can get an interview with Peter, or, if we get, some other interviews or webinars where they give us a little explanation, or not explanation, but extra information, maybe going into Q2, just so that we have kind of some realistic expectations. So that's kind of my thoughts. I do think we're going to see a very, very nice finish to the end of the fiscal year. I've said before in a couple of my videos that I think the back half of 2025, just like they were saying on the call, is really going to be the moneymaker for Xtract One here, especially with the One Gateway coming online. But that's kind of my main overall thoughts here. Not a great quarter. Not good to see that decline in bookings, revenue, and whatnot. But based on some of the things that we saw on the call, and just based on my experience previously with the company and management and whatnot, I still have a lot of confidence going forward, and I'm still very excited about what we could see in the back half of the year here. So let me know in the comments what you guys thought about the earnings, anything that you think I kind of missed or didn't touch on. And other than that, I will see you guys next time. Have a great day.